I call this meeting to order. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to an order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12th, 2020, superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. The meeting will have a question and answer session following each hearing. Abutters will have the ability to raise a hand, abutters interested parties, but please keep your comments to less than 3 minutes to move things along. Thank you. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm good. Kenny?
Nope, I'm
Great.
all set.
Let's make a move. I'll move to accept the agenda as presented. That's Richard.
I'll take that move or motion. How about a second?
Second,
Any? Okay. All in favor? Doug?
Yes.
Jen?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay. We want to start right with Newell Street.
yeah, I make a motion, we're gonna continue both 8 New Street to April 5th.
So that's going to be both
Yeah,
ones for 8 Newell.
the dock and pool.
Okay, we've got a motion to move it to the April 5th. A second?
Second. Doug.
Second from Doug. Great. All in favor, Richard? Oh, you're
I'm recused.
closed.
Yep.
Yep. Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay. 626 CJC. You have an applicant? Paul Marabito or somebody from Ross?
I don't see anybody from this
Oh,
one,
is it?
so
Is that a new one? Wait a minute. I think I gotta open this one.
yeah, you do need to open it, but I don't see anybody from their team.
I'll just move on to Oceanside and come back.
I need to
Yeah,
get,
Frank, why don't you, we'll come back to this one, actually, so we'll,
okay. We have
Okay.
to, is the other one already open? Is Oceanside open?
no, that's one's gonna be open too.
All right. Let me open this one and then we'll just come back to it. On March 15th, 2021, 5:30 meeting at Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Thomas LaPearl for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation and RAD on properties located at 626 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay, so we don't have anybody yet for that, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so number 12, Oceanside, on March 15th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Thomas Blake to raise and rebuild an existing dwelling at location 12 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information in this virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Is there someone from Morse's office on?
Yeah, I think Greg was in the waiting room.
Yeah, Greg is on. I'll try to get him on here. Hold on.
Good evening, it's Greg.
Good evening,
Hi,
Greg.
It's always
You're up.
frustrating. It's always frustrating hearing your name being called, and it's on the unmute. I sit here on this end pressing it, so thanks for letting me in. Anyways, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. I'm representing the property owner, Thomas Blake. This is a raise and rebuild of a house located at 12 Oceanside Drive. We filed a notice of intent for the project. The property, if you drove by today, you would see it's developed with an existing single-family home. It abuts Oceanside Drive at the bottom of the plan there, the south lot line. The north lot line extends out to the Atlantic Ocean. This is down in the Sand Hills neighborhood. The existing house is non-FEMA compliant. Mr. Blake had started doing work at the house previously and has exceeded the improvement value. The house needed a lot more work than he initially thought. So he came to us to file a notice of intent to do a full raise and rebuild. You'll see that the new home, which is the boulder line kind of centrally located on the lot, that depicts a home predominantly in the same location as the existing, but the new home would be elevated up on a FEMA compliant pile foundation. The property has 2 floodplains, land subject to coastal storm flowage. Closer to the seawall in the Atlantic Ocean is a velocity zone at elevation 19, and closer to Oceanside Drive is an AE floodplain at elevation 15. The proposed house is elevated at elevation 23, so plenty of freeboard. It is an open pile foundation. It will be serviced by town water and sewer service, both out to Oceanside Drive. The utilities are already in place. They would be temporarily disconnected from the existing home, and then they would be reconnected to the proposed home. Other than that, there's an existing garage at the front of the lot. The garage would stay. It's detached. It's just the new home being constructed. Turn it over to you.
Greg, just before we start, do we have a any plan for? I see Rockwood Design.
So we did provide a proposed FEMA certificate. We also provided the structurals with the pile layout for it.
Okay. All right. Brendan.
So we have the Rockwood plans, but they're not stamped. But they do show pile locations. Frank, I think that those went out to everybody, but we do have those.
I didn't find it in my packet, but usually there's a structural engineer that does.
Yeah. Yeah. So full stamped structurals, would be provided at the time of the building permit, but the pile layout, I know Rockwood was consulting with an engineer to come out with the layout that he has depicted. That's what's on the architectural plans.
Okay. Okay. Brendan?
I don't currently have a question.
Okay. Andy?
I'm okay on this one.
Okay. Jen?
I don't recall. I'm trying to see, is the deck attached to the house or is it
Yeah.
separate?
Looks to me like it's attached.
It is. It's an elevated deck. It is attached.
Okay. Even though it's the velocity zone?
As long as it meets the elevation, it's okay. I think sometimes they're detached
Okay.
when there's an issue. Like if the deck's in the B zone, but the house is in the A zone, sometimes they'll make it detached so that they can have a different elevation. But this is all compliant. The house is compliant with the V zone from what I see. I think I'm right on
And
that.
it's really tight on that sideline. How do they plan on getting to those spots without getting on the neighbors? Well, I guess the neighbor is the town of Scituate.
So that's the eastern lot line. That's an 8-foot setback, which is the required zoning setback. So they have 8 feet there to work with.
Oh, the other way.
On the left-hand side, the western lot line, that's an 8-foot setback as well to the lot line.
Oh,
So,
but
Jen-
what am I looking at then?
So the house is set back the 8 feet or better because it's the property
Right.
line's at an angle, but they can build the deck to close to the property line.
Right, totally. I'm just wondering, like, is there enough space to do work without infringing on neighbors or getting them upset?
We feel that there is. I mean, the deck will be built, once the piles are in place, the deck will be built essentially from that deck elevation up top.
Cool. Sounds good.
Penny?
Yeah, that was my question. I didn't realize that a deck could go right up to the property line. But if
Can.
that's okay,
It
that's
can.
okay with me. No, other than that, I think it's good. Get it up high.
Doug?
I'm recused from this, Frank.
Okay. Richard?
2 quick questions. Number 1, is there any connection to the seawall from the deck or
No.
from the front of the house planned?
No, there is not. We're not connecting.
Okay. And then second of all, I see the garage is to remain. It's in pretty rough shape. Is there any what I'm getting at by asking the question is, are we going to come back in a few months or a year and say we got to do something with the garage? But that is in rough shape, to say the least.
Yeah, I would imagine the garage at some point would be, maybe a new roof, maybe new siding on it. But, the reality of well, you can't elevate a garage.
No.
And, constructing a new one in its place, that's not on the table right now. I imagine it'll be reconstructed, new siding, new roof,
Yeah.
and prettied up, but it's
Okay.
to remain.
No. Otherwise, I don't have any questions on the building itself.
Amy?
Yeah, so I think this is a pretty straightforward notice of intent. No DEP comments, appears to meet the, the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and Scituate bylaw. So I would say that we're probably good to close after a butter comments, Frank.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this?
I think we're good with comments, Frank.
Okay. Greg, they're tearing down the existing house, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So I didn't get a chance to ride by this one. Is it grass? Is it stone? What's the conditions of the site?
Mostly stone and sand, and that's what it's proposed to be at.
So there's no erosion control or silt fence or anything like that on this one.
We didn't propose one. There's no topsoil or no vegetation to protect in this case. It's cobblestone and sand.
Okay. Maybe just some sort of narrative on how you're going to do all this. Pretty tight site.
It is. They are.
I'm assuming that maybe they can work off the town side or something. I'm not even sure what's there, but just with the garage in that location, to get some machinery in there and
Oh,
You got 12 feet.
Yeah, the machinery, will be accessed to the right, to the east of the garage. That's the location that they park in currently, and that's
Right.
where they'll be accessing the whole site essentially from.
Okay. Well, dumpsters, all that sort of stuff, just some sort of maybe idea on how that's all going to come together in terms of not
Good point.
have any issues with.
Sure, I think, a dumpster at this location, it's going to be a fairly quick demo. The house doesn't have any insulation in it. I
Right.
believe it's only a single-story house. So I would say that there's potential maybe that the dumpster be placed in the street immediately in front of the house, or that, the excavator would come and take the house down predominantly, and the dumpster could go in the driveway if the street wasn't available at that time.
Right. I just think that's something that's got to be watched. You're still on the ocean. If they were to come in and crush this house all up, and then there'd be a big pile before they got material out of there, obviously watching for storms and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second. Brendan.
Second is Brendan. All in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Doug, you're reclused, right?
Yep.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan made the motion. Frank, yes. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Frank, I see that Greg Tanzi's on the call, so we could probably circle back to 626 CJC.
Okay.
It's all opened.
Greg?
Hi, Frank.
Yep.
This is Paul Marabito I'm here for the NRAD for 626 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Sounds good.
We surveyed the property for property line, and Brad Holmes flagged the wetlands. This property is right on Route 3A. It's the high school property is directly behind it. And the house to the right of it is the Habitat for Humanity house. There's an existing dwelling and existing barn on the property now, which is in an upland area. And to the north of that is a wetland area with a stream flowing through it, which does flow into the reservoir. Art Allen did a report on it. He changed 2 flags. We went out and surveyed the new flags, and I submitted to you a revised plan dated March 10th. There's flag A16R and flag B33R, which are highlighted on the plan. They're to the one's to the right side of the stream and the other one's to the left side. It really doesn't affect the area where the houses are, but we did modify the plan accordingly, and I believe those were the only revisions from Art, who I believe is on the meeting as well this evening. So with that, I'll end any questions. I'll end here and answer any questions the members may have.
Paul, which were the flags again?
It was
Okay,
flag A16R. If you look at the where the barn is, oops,
Mm-hmm.
just above the barn, it says lot area.
Yep.
And straight up and to the left, you'll see wetland flag A16R.
Mm-hmm.
Right in this area here. And then if you go on the other side of the brook, there is wetland flag B33R, which is further uphill. It's right here.
Yep.
So B33R. The
Frank,
other
we could
one
probably go right to
this area.
Art.
Yeah, I just was curious which ones moved. That's all.
What he did was add some more wetland to the site, which is fine.
Okay.
just a little.
Okay. We'll shift over. Is Art on?
Art is on, yes.
Great. Good evening.
Thanks, Art Allen from Ecotech, a peer review consultant for the commission. As Paul noted, I did review the site on March 1st of this year and provided a comment memo dated March 1st. The plan was revised in response to my comments. Again, that flag A16R, which actually makes a connection between A11 and A17. So even though it's one flag, it eliminates a number of old flags that basically showed a kind of a peninsula extending out into the wetland. And I just felt that that needed to be connected across. A33R did the same thing, made a connection and eliminated several flags. Again, doesn't significantly change the buffer offsets or anything, just includes a little more wetland within the delineated area. My other comments pertain to the fact that on the ANRAD, they were applying for bank delineation. So they had given a linear footage of flagged stream bank. The stream bank was not flagged in the field. He shows a stream on the plan, but about half of that stream is within a ponded area. So, I mean, even if it had been delineated, I wouldn't be able to confirm the stream delineation within the ponded area. So I would recommend if you issue an order of resource area delineation that you not confirm stream bank, again, because it was not flagged. And a lot of it, again, is not even visible because of the ponding. And regarding that ponding, it appears that that's a seasonal ponding area for possibly a very large vernal pool. It does not appear to hold to pond year round. In fact, Brad Holmes, ECR, the wetland scientist, he did at least a partial delineation on the ponding area he has striped VP flags out there in the field. Those flags were not located on the plan. But again, the ponding area is all contained within the delineated wetland. But I just want the commission to be aware, that there is a potential vernal pool within the wetland, and that part of that stream is flooded out associated with that ponding area. But in my opinion, the delineation shown, the bordering vegetated wetland delineation shown on this plan revised dated March 10th, I find to be accurate, and that's the extent of my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Andy?
Nope, appreciate the explanation. I don't think I have any questions.
Jen?
I think I'm good for now.
Penny?
If there's a potential vernal pool out there, my question, I guess, is if we accept the ANRAD, but a potential vernal pool that isn't on the plan, I just don't want them to come back to us with wanting to build something in the uplands within the 250-foot buffer for a vernal pool. So that would have to, I don't know how you do that, Amy, but that would definitely have to be in this ANRAD somehow.
This is Art. I would recommend a finding on the ORAD, just that there's an undelineated potential vernal pool within the wetlands, so that it's in the record.
Well, I just don't want to be in trouble if they come back, that we said everything was okay, and because a vernal pool is very, very important when you're building. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Richard?
No, Penny stole my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I'm done.
Richard.
It's okay. I'll forgive you.
Okay.
Amy?
Hey, what about me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Doug.
Not only did Penny steal my thunder, you didn't even call on me.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
No, I'm good.
I've
That
got
was
no
my-
questions
that-
either.
But that was my same question. So thanks for asking.
And how about, I didn't ask Brendan either. Sorry, Brendan.
I'm good as well.
They gave me these little chewy bears here, and they're delicious, and I lost track of what I was doing.
Got distracted.
Amy?
Okay, so thankful to have Art on the call here, and I mean, it looks like we have everything that we need to make an ORAD finding on this. And I definitely agree that this undelineated potential vernal pool within the buffer should be notated. And I mean, it is that time of year when it would be a good time to define that area. I don't know how quickly, Paul, a project's coming forward on this. Do you have any information as far as that goes?
Frank,
Yep.
can I make a couple comments? As far as the vernal pool, I spoke to Brad about that. I've instructed him to monitor that. This is the time of year, for the vernal pool to be looked at. There's a 2 or 3 month window here, and he is planning on doing that, but I don't want that to hold up the commission's issuance of the ORAD. As far as the stream goes, we located that by field survey as much as we could. Art's right, the middle portion was underwater, but we were able to show that on the plan based upon other maps that have been prepared for this area by other agencies. The reason for the location of the stream is because of the 150-foot setback that's required in the Water Resource Protection District bylaw. It really has nothing to do with the wetland. It's a non-disturbance buffer zone, which we can't go into. And with the exception of the middle part of the stream, we were able to locate it by field survey. And I thought I'd put that in the NRED to have that identified, but if it isn't, we don't have an issue with that. I don't have any issues with Art's inspection of the site. I think it is a very thorough and professional review of the site, and with that, and based upon all the foregoing, I'd ask the commission close the hearing and issue the ORAD accordingly.
Do we have anybody? Thank you, Paul. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? Anybody with a hand up? No. Can I just, Art or Paul, can you just tell me, it seems like in both those two cases where you said it was like A12 or 13, you sort of cut out a bunch of numbers. So it sounds like you drew a line from those. Can you just tell me which flags you drew that line to? Because I'm not looking at a revised plan. I'm looking at the plan that Paul submitted.
The revised plan's up on the site. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Looking at my own.
So A16R connects A11 to A16R to A17. And then B33R connects B29 to B33R to B35.
Got it. Okay. And do you agree with Paul with regard to the stream location? Is it possible to include the areas that they were able to flag or mark?
Well, the ANRAD form, I mean, what you're verifying is it technically says delineated resources. So, I mean, delineation is typically, flagging by a qualified, wetland professional that's then survey located. But because stream bank is a wetland resource area that is typically field delineated by a wetland scientist. In this case, the surveyors located where they thought the bank was in some areas, and then estimated it in other areas. So it doesn't for them, evidently it doesn't have any bearing on, on conservation because it's within the wetland, but it has bearing on, some other permits. So I'd leave it. I would not recommend verifying any of the stream bank under this ORAD. It just wasn't, done according to the DEP process. So they can have it on there for other purposes, but I would not recommend verifying stream bank under the ORAD.
Okay. And as far as a potential vernal pool, I mean, that's just going to have to play out over a little bit of time. So we'd hear back from you on that, Paul, or Brad, eventually.
Well, what I'm asking of the commission to do is to close the hearing and vote the NRED as revised the plan. In the interim, Brad is going to monitor that area to see if it is a vernal pool. And again, one of the reasons we're having the wetlands confirmed through the the NRED process is because in the zoning the subdivision rules and regulations, if the property is to be divided, the planning board requires confirmation of the wetland line, not the stream. The stream comes under a different section of the zoning bylaw to make sure you don't do any work within 150 feet of it, which we aren't. So,
Okay.
And this is Art. I would just recommend, I think it's a great idea to have Brad and ECR monitor the ponding area for vernal pool. I would only recommend that if especially, if he finds vernal pool species, that's obvious, then it's a vernal pool. But if he does not find the species, he should have that confirmed through the commission or Amy or somebody, because confirming the absence of anything, especially a vernal pool, without confirmation is, I just warn that the commission may not be amenable in the future to that if they haven't had a chance to confirm that for themselves.
Okay. All right.
Want me to close?
Yeah, just trying to think of the wording for that. Make sure we've included. Amy, are you comfortable with the information we have to just close this without any additional?
Yeah, the revised plan was received on Thursday. So I guess to the extent that you guys have actually had the opportunity to look at it and feel comfortable, I think it's good that Arts was able to review and confirm that they had made the changes that he recommended. And I'm good with the 2 notes. I think I got the wording, so I'll be able to work that out on the ORAD form. It's pretty straightforward. We could continue it to the next meeting and close it then, just so you have time to look at it or close. It's really up to you, honestly.
I'm comfortable with closing it as long as you have the verbiage for the stream.
Yep.
And we'll put in the piece of the
pool.
wetlands in the vernal pool. Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Okay,
enough.
so I'll make a motion to close.
Great. A second on that one
Second, Doug?
is Doug. Great. All in favor? Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank. Yes. Thank you.
okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Paul.
Good night.
Night.
Night. Treasure Island.
Street, CGC, Oceanside,
Treasure
15 Treasure Island. Let's see. Excuse me. On March 15th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. the Town Hall, the Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing. The Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Hadley Country Club for repair to an existing septic system at a dwelling location 15 Treasure Island Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is posted on the town website.
Morse,
And this
great.
is Morse Engineering. Good evening.
Great. Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the Hatherley Country Club. This is a notice of intent associated with a septic system upgrade for the clubhouse. The clubhouse right now is serviced by a septic system that has a failing leaching field. So our proposal here is to reconstruct a new septic system. The new septic system, we're adding 2 new septic tanks to the clubhouse, and we're constructing a new leaching field. Where the system is located is out in the green and in a tee box location, just to the southwest of the clubhouse. It's partially located in a FEMA zone AE, which is land subject to coastal storm flowage. Where we have the septic tank situated is outside the FEMA zone, but where we have the leaching field proposed is inside of the FEMA zone. It's existing grass area. We would be putting it back as grass area. We've proposed an erosion control consisting of a silt fence at the down gradient limit of work. From this location, it's over 200 feet to any sort of vegetated wetland. There's 200 feet of grass in all directions, essentially, from where this septic system is to any vegetated wetland. But it is located in land subject to coastal storm flowage at elevation 14. The Board of Health has approved the plan. I'm noticing that DEP has not yet issued a file number for this, but I'll turn it over for any questions or comments.
Okay. Jen?
Really jumping around here tonight.
Going backwards.
No. I think I'm okay for now. I'm still kind of new to looking at it, but I think I'm good for now.
Ben's in shock.
I am.
Penny? I didn't mean I was going backwards choosing you. I just.
Yeah. No, I'm fine. Septic.
Doug?
No, I'm fine with it. The idea of proposing a conventional area land, you're denoting some land area to be used for a conventional system that's not going to be constructed. Why is that a requirement?
So this type of septic system is what's called a Presby Enviro septic system.
Yep.
So when the Department of Environmental Protection approved Presby for use in Massachusetts, they said, whenever you propose one of these Presby systems, we also want to see that you could have installed a fully compliant conventional type of septic system on the property. So we depict typically in that outline a conventional septic system size to show that that could be built had we gone that route. But like the plan depicts, it's not to be constructed. It's purely depicting the size of a conventional system versus the Presby system.
Okay, that was my assumption. So thanks for clearing that up for me. That's all I had.
Where did you see that note?
I'm very clever. It's
I got it.
Yeah.
Good one. Okay. Richard?
I'm fine, thank you.
Brendan?
I'm fine, thank you.
Andy?
I'm okay, Frank.
Amy?
Yeah, so no DEP comments, number of comments yet. Last I knew, this did not have Board of Health approval, but checking with Joan right now. But anyways, I mean, I agree. It's got to be better than what's there if it's a failed system. And clearly we want to be supportive of that. It's a pretty large area. I guess there's a lot of capacity, but I don't know. Since it is such a big site, I'm not sure whether you want to close it without a DEP number. That would be the only thing I'm thinking. But it does appear to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate bylaw.
If I may, the club is anxious to get this project going, potentially before their golf season this year. Understanding that you have to write an order of conditions on this, presumably at your next meeting, if we were to continue it pending a receipt of a DEP file number, is review of an order of conditions something that could happen, at the next meeting. That seems to be the only outstanding issue, and I thought that would have been issued today. I called DEP multiple times, but I don't think they're working at their office. They're still working remotely. I expect to have that number in any day. The Board of Health did unanimously approve this at their meeting last Monday night.
Okay.
With that in mind, could we close an issue next meeting if he gets the DEP?
Yeah, we
approval?
could close with that stipulation.
I guess the question Richard had is, Amy, are you comfortable? Can we close and issue orders at the next meeting?
Yeah, we could vote and vote to close and issue at the next meeting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they walk the next day with the orders. You know what I mean? So it's still, there's still a process. So it,
It shortens
but-
it a little.
Okay.
with any luck, that it should be sometime in April for sure.
Okay. Right, we didn't have anybody in the audience, right, for
Yeah,
this?
you have Bill Ornberg that has
We have a
his
hand up. Yeah, hold on.
Is Bill muted on our end, or? Amy, can you unmute Bill?
I'm unmuted now, Frank.
Great.
Yeah, no, I think I was going to fill in a couple of things. I think Greg has said it all admirably. And to the extent of, as Greg was saying, is that we're kind of in the, I understand orders have to be drafted and all that. If it's possible to get them, but if the orders aren't going to be signed until April, we're probably going to lose the window we have. But I understand I'm not trying to, in other words, if we have a disruption to the system, we'll pump it and do what we got to do. But if you can close the meeting and vote it at the next one, that'd be super. Subject to obviously getting your number from DEP.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Okay, I think it's been pretty well vetted. I guess it would be good to see if we could help them move that along if it works out.
Is there any way to close pending the DEP number and so that we could move it along a little faster for them?
Yeah, they just wouldn't get orders if we don't get the DEP number.
No, what I'm saying, Penny, is
Yeah.
close pending the DEP number. The DEP number arrives tomorrow or Wednesday
Yeah.
or whatever. Can we go to work then and work on the orders?
I would think so.
Guess I'm asking Amy, really.
Well, yeah, so the thing is, right, is that it's the DEP number that we're looking for, but it's also comment. So that's the risk, is whether or not they have it, comment. I think that honestly, either way, if they're going to achieve the same goal, if everything's good with the state, and that would be, sounds like they're going to be able to construct towards the end of April.
Okay.
So we meet on the April
5th.
5th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it would be, sometime after that meeting, usually a week or two. So we'll try to work.
To Richard's point, why don't we just close
Yes.
close it this evening and subject to
DEP number.
DEP, and you can get the input from them. You're not going to get the orders out. It just would help move that along a little bit, given it's a septic repair. I think that was your
Yeah, it
question.
is. I'll make a motion to close pending receipt of the DEP number.
Second.
Approval.
I have a motion from Richard, a second from Penny. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Okay. So we moving on to RDAs. We have 128 Humrock Beach. On March 15th, 2021, during the 5:30 meeting at the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Kara and Charles Sulla for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands Bylaws for activities related to an addition on a single-family dwelling at property known as 128 Humrock Beach Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access to the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Who do we have for that?
Good
John
evening,
Zimmer?
Yep.
John Zimmer.
Hey, John.
Good evening. For the record, John Zimmer, South River Environmental, representing the sellers. This is for a small 13 by 6 or so, 13 by 5 addition to an existing single-family residence located on Humrock Beach. And the entire lot's about 7,500 square feet. It's pretty much within every coastal resource area or buffer zone that you could imagine. Barrier beach, land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal dune because it's on barrier beach, and it's within the 100-foot buffer to coastal bank and coastal beach. So we have a little bit of everything there, but the project itself is fairly de minimis. It's a small addition. Will be supported on concrete piers. There'll be a small restructuring of an existing porch that's in the area where the addition will go now. I had originally filed this as an NOI just because of all the resource areas, and Amy said that it seemed to be a small enough project that we could probably do it as an RDA, so I modified it into an RDA. So that's what we have in front of you. That's about the size of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Don't anticipate the need for any erosion controls. There's a seawall there, so that there's an existing break before you get to the beach and the ocean.
Okay. Penny?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Doug?
Just one. I agree. It's a very small project, and this is probably just semantics. But when we issue, is this an ANRAD?
No, it's an RDA.
It's an RDA. I mean, excuse me, an RDA. So, my question, the firm zones on here are outdated, and I didn't know if you had confirmed if the elevations are the same. And does it matter to us if, like, are we making? We're not making any kind of statement about the elevation of those V zones when we give a negative determination on an RDA, are we? I don't know if you had a chance, John, to check to see if those are the same. Now, they're from 1992. They're pretty outdated. They're probably higher than that now.
Right. I did not, Doug. I guess we could, if you wanted to put a condition in the DOA for an elevation certificate afterwards, we could do that.
No, I mean, it's not going to make any difference on what you build because it's all existing anyways. You're going to match the existing floor elevations. It's
Right.
just more when we issue, our finding an RDA, do we have to confirm? And maybe we don't because it's a federal flood zone. Does
Right,
that matter?
I don't believe you have to confirm any flood zones associated with it, just so long as the floor elevation is above the latest flood elevation.
Yeah, and my guess is it probably, well, I don't know, it says it's approximately 18.
Yeah, in the front, and
Yeah.
it kind of goes down from the back. But my assumption is that the building department wouldn't issue a building permit.
Yeah, they might have you do an elevation certificate anyways. So yeah, I don't think it matters from my perspective. I mean, again, I think it's just semantics. I just didn't know if we had to, if that mattered on our vote. We don't have to. Maybe we can just pretend Doug didn't answer any questions.
Wow.
And move on. Okay, so I'm good.
Richard?
One of the more interesting houses on Humrock Beach Road. It's a great house. And I have no real questions about the deck at all. Other than you're going to use concrete piers as opposed to posts, huh?
Correct. You can't get anything.
That's a little unusual on the beach. Not unheard of, but a little unusual.
I think it would be very difficult to get something back in there to be able to drive piles.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. Okay. No, I'm good.
Okay. Brendan?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Andy?
No, looks pretty small to me. I'm good.
Okay. Jen?
I'm good.
Right. Amy?
Yeah, so like John said, and well, like you guys know, right? So Humrock, we're on a barrier beach, coastal dune, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and part velocity zone. It did come in as a notice of intent, but as you can see, the plan is very outdated. And so as a notice, this plan would not really meet the threshold of acceptable. So since it was such a simple project, I did suggest coming in as an RDA. But to answer the question about confirming resource areas with this filing, and the answer is no. So there will be a note, because that seems to be a continuous issue for RDAs, that, it's implied that you're confirming the resource areas for like the project down the road, and that's not the case. Although here it's pretty straightforward, but that would also apply to the elevations. It does appear to meet the requirements of a negative finding.
And I'm assuming that the building department's going to review it as well for compliance on their end.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So building commissioner is required to review the project for coastal building code requirements and other flood standards.
All right. And we didn't have anybody in the audience, right? I said.
No, I make a motion for -3.
I'll second it.
All in favor? So that was Penny and
Richard. Yep.
So all in favor, Doug?
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Have a good night.
Good.
And then we have 215 Tilden Road. On March 15th, 2021, during the 5:30 meeting, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Stephen Conley for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaws for activities related to a raise, rebuild, and installation of a new septic system at a single-family dwelling on property known as 215 Tilden Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda proposed on the town website.
Morse.
So, good evening. Is this Greg again?
Yep.
Good evening.
Evening. For the record, Greg Morse, Morse Engineering, representing the applicant Stephen Connolly. This is an RDA associated with 215 Tilden Road, the raise and reconstruction of a new single-family home. 215 Tilden Road is a rather large property. The property is approximately 7 acres in size. We had Brad Holmes perform a wetlands delineation. Brad Holmes is a professional wetland scientist, and depicted on this plan in blue at the bottom of the screen is the edge of a bordering vegetated wetland. Off of that in red is the 50-foot no disturbance zone, and in green, the 100-foot buffer zone. The proposal here is to construct a new home. The new home is the boulder structure you see kind of on the middle of the page. That home is located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The driveway is outside the 100-foot buffer zone, and the septic system is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. But a portion of the grading associated with the septic system is inside of the 100 at a distance of 90 feet. And a deck that is off the back of the proposed home extends into the 100. It's at a distance of 98 feet to 3 sonotubes, which would be constructed as part of the deck. The existing home at the site, there's actually 3 buildings on the property. One of them is a barn that would remain. That's kind of at the top left corner of the page here. But the other 2 structures, one is a garage. The garage is at the location of the proposed house. The garage would be demoed. Again, that's outside the 100-foot buffer. And then the existing home at the property. The existing home is kind of in the middle of the page at the bottom, which is just inside of the 50-foot buffer zone. It has overgrown grass and lawn on all sides of it. And our proposal is to take that building down and put grass in its place. We believe that there's an exemption in the wetlands regulations at 10.022B2F, which specifically allows for the conversion in a buffer zone of impervious surfaces to vegetated surfaces. So the work that we're proposing here is to take down the existing dwelling and put grass in its place. It's grass on either side of it. There'd be no change in grade. We're not bringing in fill and altering grades associated with that. That's why this was filed as an RDA. Erosion controls are specified at the limit of work. The limit of work essentially follows the existing tree line that's at the site. I'd turn it over to you.
Okay. Maybe we'll just start out some questions from members. We have Penny.
Yeah, so you're saying that it is an RDA because the construction is outside the 100-foot? I mean, it seems like a lot's going on this lot to be an RDA. I'm just shocked that it's not a notice.
Sure. So if we zoom in here, which we have done a little bit on the screen here, you'll see that the house, almost all of the grading in the driveway is all outside of that green 100-foot buffer zone.
Right.
The septic system, the utilities, all of that is. Off the back of the house, you'll see the rectangle that depicts the proposed deck. There's 3 sonotubes on that deck. Those are 98 feet away from the wetlands.
All right.
And they're being put in an area that's existing grass area.
So you're demolishing the house that's there, and then you're going to level that land off and just plant? What do you plan on planting? Grass or?
Grass.
Grass.
Just grass?
Grass.
Lawn?
Yes.
To be mowed?
Yes.
Okay.
You can see the edge of the existing tree line.
Yep, I do.
Between the tree line and the wetland is a stone wall section. That's there. It's pretty well defined, but we're not pushing the tree line back. We're not changing the grades in that area. We're taking the house down. The house is on a cinder block foundation.
Yeah.
So it's not a tough foundation to break apart or anything. So the cinder blocks in the house would be taken out. Loam would be spread in its place and grass would be planted.
Okay, thank you.
Doug?
Come back to me on that.
Okay.
Let me just digest that a little bit.
Richard?
I actually like it a lot. The old house is going to be out of the way, and with the exception of a couple of feet, it's just much better. It's just much. I don't have a lot of questions, and I certainly don't have engineering questions that Doug may end up having.
Okay. Brendan?
Excuse me. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I think I'm good on questions. So may have some thoughts in a moment, but I'm good for now.
Okay. Jen?
I am thrilled that the house is moving so much further back from the resource areas.
Well, it's a huge piece of property.
True, but we often have.
No, I know.
people
I
who
know.
insist-
Penny, it's not your turn.
Yeah, Penny, give me my time.
Go ahead.
Joking. There's a note in here, and maybe I just missed it because there is so much happening. Contractor to locate existing septic system. Do they have any idea? Like, what if that
There's
closer
a
to?
there's a cesspool cover, so any liquid that would be in it would get pumped out, and the system would be abandoned in place. And that's outside the 50-foot.
But where is that on here?
It's immediately between the existing house and the proposed new house location. So where the cursor is on the
Is it marked?
where the cursor is on the screen, it's a little more to the left. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Down just a little bit. It's right there where the cursor is on the screen.
Okay.
There's a cesspool cover there.
Okay. I guess I'm wondering what is the difference for like notifying neighbors for between an NOI and RDA? I truly can't recall right now.
This is a legal ad. Notice of intent is a butter notification.
I would add this.
Go
I would
ahead,
add that this project did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where all neighbors within 300 feet of the property were notified, and it received unanimous approval through the Zoning Board.
Okay. So, but in this case, abutters haven't been notified from a conservation perspective?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's just an ad. It's an ad in the paper, Jen.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I wonder about that, but that feels kind of like, procedural in general. I'm obviously thrilled that it's moving so much further away. So love that. Although I guess, obviously I'm never done. Do we need to do anything here in terms of marking for, wetlands conservation, don't go beyond this post or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we do generally, especially this is super close, so it's just something to consider. Other than that, I'm done, Frank.
Okay. I mean, sometimes we would put some boundary markers at the 50-foot line. Some of that's already disturbed, and it looks like the applicant wants to leave that as lawn.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think, there's cases where people are pushing it much closer, and then we look for mitigation or look for some other markings, but I'm not seeing how that would really apply to this project. I mean, the mitigation of getting the house out of that 50 and
Even 100.
a new septic system and stuff seems pretty good in its own. So it's actually, have we covered everybody? So Amy, you're up, I think.
Paul's.
Yeah. So
I'm
I've
sorry.
batted this project around quite a bit. And so, I mean, you guys see this as a request for determination of applicability. So it's a yes or no. And literally, if you say no, so negative, it means they get a piece of paper that says you're good to go. Whereas if you say yes, then you get to actually comment on the project and review the resource areas to make sure they're accurate. Furthermore, Morse's exemption that he's using, he's not using the complete citation. So I would say that you need to take a look at the regulations for 310 CMR 10.021 E and F, where it's what he's saying that makes the project exempt just is not accurate. So, but I think that the other thing that I guess I'm struggling with this is, you know, there's so much going on. It's such a big project, a lot of which is within the 100, and you don't have confirmed resource areas. We don't know if they're even accurate. I mean, generally, you know, ECR is pretty accurate, but on my view of the GIS, you know, there's more to what's going on here than just what's on this plan. So it's a big piece of property, like Greg said. Well, I show that there's probably something going on. I mean, I don't even know if we get where the north arrow is. I can't see it on this, but on the, like near the septic system. So on the northern side, northern and eastern sides of the property, I mean, it just stops, which clearly that doesn't just stop. But so I mean, I really think this should be a positive finding with a notice of intent, so that you can have a complete review and you can get a confirmed resource area with accurate boundaries. I spoke to a couple of our peer review consultants who 100% agreed with that point of view. So that's what I have to say.
I may respond to that.
Yes.
I don't cite section 10.02E as was just said into the record. I cite section F. There's a very distinct difference between the two of them. Section F of the regulations is pure and simple. I'll read the thing in its entirety. It says the conversion of impervious to vegetated surfaces, provided erosion and sedimentation controls are implemented during construction. And that applies for any activities in the buffer zone, okay, as an exempt activity. The conversion of impervious to vegetated surfaces, provided erosion and sedimentation controls are implemented during construction. That's the section that we filed under, because that's essentially, that's the activity that we're doing here. We're taking down the existing house and putting lawn in its place. What the agent just said is that I applied under section E, which I did not. I did not include section E because it's clearly different. Section E is the conversion of lawn to uses accessory to residential structures. And it also allows vice versa, residential structures to go to lawn. But it has to do with decks, patios, pools, so that if someone was proposing a shed, a patio, or a pool, or a bulkhead for a house, that they wouldn't have to file a full notice of intent. And what that requires is that does require that a 50-foot setback from the wetlands be required. But I didn't file under that. I filed under section F, which clearly does not include a 50-foot minimum setback. The wetlands delineation out here, no, it has not been peer reviewed, but it's been done by a professional wetland scientist familiar with Situate's bylaws. And you look at the delineation compared to the work that's proposed, the existing house that we're taking down, we can't move that. The rest of the work is predominantly outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. I have not seen ECR's flags get changed in any significant fashion on previous projects that would materially alter the proposed house location or the demolition of the existing house. That's why I considered this as an RDA application being appropriate.
Frank, we have Art still on the line. Can we ask to see if he can chime in? Because maybe I misunderstood. But I still think that E applies here also.
Okay, yeah, just before that, Greg, you said that if you're removing an existing structure, that erosion control needs to be in place. Is that shown on the plan?
It is. It's the dashed line.
I got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are proposing erosion control around that area of work.
Okay. Yes. If Art's there, I'd be happy to hear his comments.
Yeah, Art Allen from Ecotech. As Amy noted, I did a brief review of the RDA and plan and provided a proposal to review the site and the filing. Yeah, I mean, E and F are two separate sections of the exemptions, but the preface to that section also says the factors to consider when measuring the potential for adverse impacts to resource areas include the extent of work, the proximity to the resource area, et cetera. So, you know, it's in the discretion of the commission to apply these exemptions. You know, the guideline in E is that, you know, this conversion work should be more than 50 feet away. F does not have that stipulation, but you know, it's a good rule of thumb. It's also, I believe, your bylaw setback, you know, regulates or limits or prohibits work within 50 feet. So, yeah, that's clearly a concern. In addition, you know, there would not be you know, an order of conditions recorded on the deed. In addition, if this was just a negative determination, so there would be no, you know, no follow-up, no, you know, no compliance at the end of the project. You know, nothing to follow through if there were any issues, you know, during construction or anything was done differently. You know, it would just, you know, the commission would have to follow it themselves on their own time and you know, note any discrepancies. So there are issues in, you know, clearly if this was just the construction of the new house, you know, outside the house, outside of the buffer with a little bit of work in the outer buffer, you know, and there were no concerns about the resource areas, then I would say, yeah, this looks like a negative determination, but given that, you know, they will be working within the 50 and you know, there are concerns about potentially undelineated, you know, resource areas and only a partial delineation shown on the plan, then that raised my concerns. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Sorry.
After hearing any of that, does any other commission members have a question or a thought? Do we have anybody in the audience? On this
Should be
one?
raise hand.
Frank,
Seeing nobody.
Frank.
Yes.
So if we were to give a positive determination, what exactly happens? Because we don't do it all that often, and we may have some people that don't understand.
So with a positive determination, it means that they would have to file an NOI. essentially is what that requires. An RDA request is a request for a determination as to whether an NOI is required. So it's not denying the project. It's just saying that the applicant has to file an NOI rather than a simplified form. We usually use, we have the three methods of, or four. We can tell people that they're not in jurisdiction, or if they have a really insignificant project, we can issue a minor activities. If the project is less invasive, or we think it's pretty straightforward, simple, whatever, like the little addition in Hummerock or some others, we can do this under an RDA. It saves the applicant some time and money, and hopefully moves things along, simplifies the work for the commission as well. And we've encouraged folks to do things like the septics and whatnot because they're already an improvement. I mean, I kind of see both sides of this. I see a fairly substantial project with a fair amount going on in an area that's fairly sensitive. At the same time, it looks like they've worked hard to push everything right out of even the 100-foot buffer. I mean, we're looking at a lot of projects where people are in the 50 to 100. This one's out of that. And they're getting stuff out of the 50. Amy's point, or that the wetlands line has not been reviewed is, I had this discussion with Amy a little bit before, if we were splitting hairs, if we were down to only a few feet, I'd say, well, we really need to look at that, but we're so far out. Even if he was off in a few flags.
So if we issue a negative, then there's no need for an NOI, and there's no, the neighbors don't have anything to say.
The neighbors could have chimed in tonight under an RDA.
Right.
So, but they would have only known it if they saw the ad. Now, to I think Greg's point, he went through the ZBA, so I'm assuming that was all a butter notification. So people in that area are well aware that there's a project being put forth.
Yeah. I'm only asking to make sure we all understand this, because it's
I'm trying to weigh it out as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, under the RDA, it's you look. This is it. You know what I mean? It's you have, like Art said, there's no control. There's nothing on the deed. There's no accountability. There's no verifying accuracy. And to start with, we don't even know if the lines shown on the plan are accurate anyways. So that's for the resource areas. I'm quite positive this doesn't have Board of Health approval for the septic system. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of work right in the 50, and you're going to get a better project if it's not a denial. I think this is a fully supportable project. You know what I mean? I think it's totally an improvement for the piece of land, for the town, something that will be good. I just think that a thorough review of a project this big really should be performed. And I don't know. I'm getting that from everybody. I mean, not just Art, from other colleagues too. So.
Thank you, Amy. That's helpful.
If I may.
Sure, Greg.
I'd like to make a request then that I remove from the application the demolition of 215 Tilden Road, that we move forward with the remainder of the work in the 100-foot buffer zone, which is 3 sauna tubes associated with the deck and some minor grading associated with the septic. We'll leave the existing building in place and come back in the future, potentially with a notice of intent or plans to rehab it. But if I can remove that request for the existing home being demolished, that puts all of the work 90 plus feet away from the BVW at its closest point. That way the applicant can move forward with their project and reassess what to do with the existing dwelling.
If I could, this is Art from Ecotech.
Mm-hmm.
I just took a quick peek at the Mass GIS map, the wetlands, state wetlands data layer, and just in terms of what Amy's concern about additional wetlands, and the GIS definitely shows the wetland extending to the north and east of the lot. So I saw what Amy was referring to in terms of the GIS mapping. Now, the ECR line shows the wetland, down in the southeast and kind of ending just in space there on the northeast end. But the GIS layer shows it extending up to the north and east. So just wanted to mention that, even if you want to move forward with a modified version of this determination, I still have a concern that there's some additional resource areas that would encroach further into what's proposed. That's all. Thank you.
Which could impact whether the septic should even be where he's citing it. I mean, I don't know. My understanding is that maybe it could get approved there, but maybe there's a better location depending on whether the resource area takes a turn up, like Art just said and what I said too.
We cited it there because it's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Our wetland scientist says that it is. I extended an invitation to the conservation agent to walk it with the wetland scientist. We're confident on that delineation.
I think we're going back and forth a lot on this, and apologies that my video's not on. I'm having weak Wi-Fi, but I'm more. This is obviously super tricky. I would support an RDA on this, or sorry, an NOI, especially given not necessarily the question of the lines, but more the orders and having something put on the deed are definitely things that would be important, given the magnitude of change, even if it is outside that 100.
The only problem with it, like what Greg's requesting is essentially saying, listen, let me step out of the 50 altogether, leave the building for the time being, move his project forward, and then circle back with the owner, and either they're leaving an existing dwelling there, or my guess is that they're probably going to move to tear it down at some point, which would then be an NOI, which is more cost and I guess we can vote this. I'm inclined to let them do if they've worked to keep it out of the 100.
Frank,
Yes, Penny.
I just don't see that we have any jurisdiction out of the 100. If the construction is out of the 100, and even the septic is out of the 100, it isn't our business. If it was in the 100, then yeah, I'd definitely go for an NOI. But I mean, I'm having a problem of that they have cited everything out of the 100.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think we have.
All right, well, let's, I guess we should put it to a vote.
I kind of
But
agree.
I think you need to be clear about like what you're voting on. So Greg was saying he was removing the portion of the project that has demo within the buffer. But then in Penny, just to clear it up, that there is work in the 100 based on what he shows here. So there's grading and there's some footings in the 100. But I mean, it definitely does. And there's, you know, there's still whatever, but so it definitely changes it by taking that piece out of it. You know, that's sure, that's for sure. But so now we don't have an accurate description or a plan. So I think if he's going to revise the project, he's going to need to come back to us with revised information before you really vote on it. That would be my recommendation. Or just do a positive and get a notice of intent like it should be.
I think it would be easy to distinguish if you were to vote a negative determination, that no finding is being made with respect to house number 215, and it is, as it's depicted on the plan, it is to remain. That's the only change that would be necessary. The sonotubes, again, are 98 feet from the wetlands. The grading is 90 feet from the wetlands, has erosion control. It's just that the existing home that I labeled to be demolished, if you did not make a finding and made a statement that that was to remain, that would cover the bases.
How does that affect the existing septic system, which is closer to the 50?
No, it would not affect the septic system.
Meaning, like it would stay or it would go?
The existing septic system, which services house 215, would stay in place for the time being. It's not impacted by the proposed house.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what is on the right side of the column and what's on the left.
Eliminating the existing septic system is just a matter of pumping and filling it. It's not typically any earthwork. Okay. We got a couple other things to do here tonight. So do we have a motion? Somebody want to make a motion? And this would be on this project, less demolishing the existing property.
Just to throw a little bit of drama in this, it took me a little bit to figure it out, but I had a very minor involvement in the property line determination of this project, so I'm recusing myself, which puts you down to a 6-person vote.
Good way to dodge the bullet.
Sorry, I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but
okay, well, better now. Okay, so can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion for a -3 because I feel as though it's out of the 100. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do I have a second?
No.
Anybody to second Penny's motion?
So he's not getting a second. So see, I'd make a motion for a positive determination on the original proposal.
Okay, so I have
I'm not
motion.
sure what number, to be honest with you.
Is there a number with a positive? Or is it just a positive determination?
It's just a positive. It just triggers a notice of intent. We'll just get a review of it. That's all.
All right. So I have a motion from Richard for a positive determination. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second that, Andy.
So I have Andy for a second, Richard, so all in favor of a positive determination? Get the motion from Richard. Doug's abstaining. Penny?
No.
Okay, Jen?
Yes.
Andy gave a second. Brendan?
No.
Okay, so who have we got? I've lost track here. Doug's out.
You, Frank.
You.
Yeah, but I'm just, who's who here?
You got everyone, I think, except you.
All right. And I would say the motion is for a positive, correct?
Yeah.
And I would
Positive
vote,
on the original.
yeah, and I would say no to a positive on the original. So it's 3-3.
So where does that leave it?
In the mud.
I don't know. Art, do you have experience with this?
So a chair tie means the motion does not carry. So
Right.
you have no,
Right.
you have no decision.
Oh, it's just a tough one.
This is Art again. Just to throw one more thing. I mean, if I saw a complete delineation on this plan and it jibed somewhat closely with the GIS, I'd feel more comfortable in saying, the proposed house and septic is outside the buffer. But I mean, look at that resource area line. It just ends down in the corner. There's no, yeah, maybe that line that's shown is accurate, but it's not complete. So that's kind of the concern that Amy and I have.
Okay. So if we were to continue this to the next meeting, Greg, you could give us a plan showing that, or revise your proposal that the house is to be left alone. And was that flagged, or does Brett have to go back out and flag the remainder of that property? Greg.
I think he's
Here,
locked
he
on
got
mute.
muted. He should be unmuted now.
Greg, are you on?
Yep, he did walk the entire site, so.
But the flag started something less than the property line.
Right, I'll have him extend it to the lot line at that lowest location there.
Okay. So if we get that wetlands line extended and you revise your proposal to leave that dwelling.
Yeah.
Does it make any sense to change the erosion control? I guess it really doesn't. You could just leave.
Well, does it also, I mean, one of the opportunities under an RDA is you can confirm the resource area. So why don't we have the resource area confirmed? Because at the end of the day, you're still going to not have an accurate resource area, which you need in order to have the Board of Health is going to be looking for that too.
It's true.
So you typically don't put septic repair plans, which you regularly allow between the 50 and 100. You don't peer review those wetland lines.
Right.
Are you suggesting a peer review for that aspect of this?
This is a
Where?
4-bedroom new build with fill.
Outside the 100.
I think that we should just, as I said, put that line, just continue the line, give us your plan, and we'll put it back to a vote with the commission members at the next meeting.
Thank you.
I make a motion to continue the RDA to 215 Tilden Road to April 5th.
Second that.
All in favor? Doug's not. Penny's on. Jen? To continue this to the next meeting.
Sorry, I lost Wi-Fi. Can you tell me what we're voting on?
So we got a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Okay, sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Jen's yes. Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Richard, you made the motion.
I did.
Okay.
Interesting.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you, Art. Thanks, Greg.
Don't want another one of these.
Well,
I cannot remember one where we had a split vote like that.
No,
it's all right.
It is all right.
It's always a first.
Yeah.
We don't want to be in lockstep. That's never a good thing.
Nope.
So, request for minor modification. Where are we going to do orders first?
Yeah, could be pretty simple. I make a motion that we accept the orders of condition as written. Can I do them all at once? Just say them?
What do you want to do, Penny?
I would like to go this way. 83 Glades Road, 83R Glades Road, 49 Collier Road, 10 Newton Street, and Bondbrook Court. As written, unless somebody has an exception.
Second, Doug?
It's Doug. So all in favor, Richard?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay. Minor modification for Chapter 91 license at 89 Neogate Street. Is there somebody that's presenting that? Yep. Kevin, are you on? Trying to get Kevin McGuire up. He's got his hand up.
It is.
Kevin, are you muted on your end, maybe?
Yeah, Kevin, you're on. And are we talking about 89 Neogate?
Yes.
I had to step up for a minute. Okay, yeah. So I can walk you through this, and actually Paul Armstrong may be on the call too, but basically it's just a minor modification to their Chapter 91 license where the layout is just switching slightly, and they do have approval from Wetlands and Waterways, from Dave Hill. And I think that Kevin was maybe gonna go through that.
Is there any way?
Kevin, we definitely show that you're on.
Kevin,
Maybe
maybe
your mic is turned down.
So I went to that site as well. Kevin and Paul Armstrong asked me if I'd take a look at it with the property owner a month or so ago, and I went out there with them. There's an existing walkway and dock, and it's in pretty tough shape, and so they wanted to make repairs and at the same time change a little bit of the configuration. To me, it seemed like it was in line, especially if it was approvable by Dave Hill and also the harbor master, which I think they've gotten squared away. Is that what you heard, Amy?
Yes.
So, I mean, if we got a technical glitch from Kevin, but
So
I
do
don't.
we have to vote on this, Frank, or what?
Amy?
Yeah, I wanted you to vote on it.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
Yep. So I'll make a motion that we have this minor modification on the Chapter 91 license for 89 Neogate.
That's Penny. Do I have a second?
Second, Doug?
That's Doug. All in favor? Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. Some of this stuff is just challenging. Discussion for 48 Manlot Road. Discuss a restoration plan. Is Paul Marabito?
He is, I mean, it looks like Paul Mirabito's on, and it looks like Dr. Price is on as well.
Okay.
But Frank, I mean, I think that this is just administrative, and maybe, do you want me to describe what's going on, or do you want to describe what's going on? I might have the.
Yeah, why don't you go
time
ahead,
then.
Amy?
Okay. So. Oh, hold on just a second. I gotta make sure I get the file. Okay. So, this is a discussion pertaining to a detached garage or an in-law apartment, a house that was built on 48 Manlot Road, which is a long driveway set off of Manlot. And it was permitted in 2011. Orders were issued. So the orders are actually expired, and they expired quite a while ago. But part of the orders of condition involved a restoration plan for area in the buffer that had been disturbed. And so anyways, we received, and so that was a plan from 2010. And it was November 1st, 2010. And I don't know if we can see this. Actually, Jen, can we do that? But anyways, this was that plan. And so anyways, it was a pretty involved restoration and planting plan. And apparently, Mr. Price's son is a landscaper and uses this area for a part of his business, and and there's materials back there and so on and so forth. But anyway, so the 2010 plan never did get executed. So we received a request for a certificate of compliance recently in February, and Frank and I met out at the site with Gordon Price, the owner of the property, to walk the property and just to see what was going on. And anyways, and he was clear that the work hadn't been done, and he was, sorry about it, and was trying to figure out, how we could move it forward, because he really wanted to try to get some kind of a document that he could give to like a lending institution or something like that. So it's some kind of a certificate of compliance. But anyway, so we did actually a few weeks later receive another plan, which is this one, which is a little different version of a proposed restoration schematic by same company, 48 Manlot Road, February 25th, 2021. And it looks like, I mean, it's a little bit different. It's a slightly beefed up version of what was originally proposed, but anyways, and so I guess that the discussion is how to move this forward, where there is still a request on the table to issue ideally a full certificate of compliance, but we wouldn't do that with work undone necessarily. We would usually do a partial C of C with like a holdback, you know what I mean? Which they've offered up a holdback amount, and I think we could do a partial, but we really do want the work to be done. But I mean, we've got expired orders, so they don't actually have valid orders right now. But so that's largely the story.
Can I jump in just a little bit with this one as well? As Amy said, she and I went out to look at this site after we received a request from Dr. and Mrs. Price on this piece of property, and they're willing to move forward and do a restoration that is different than what we had originally, or the former commission had agreed to do with this. And it seems to be in order. It is these things that sometimes happen with these sites, and it brings up different points, but when we work in a sensitive area, over time, people go ahead and do some work. Either they're not aware of something that was done earlier or whatever. So there's a little bit of deviation from the wetlands replication that was done before, but it's actually larger than what was proposed, and the applicant's willing to go forward. I don't see any malice with any of this. It was just a mistake in the work that was done in the past, and I think that it would be great if the owners could get this work done. You know, what a lot of folks are come up against is either they're trying to sell their property or do something else with their property, and then they find out that they've forgotten to get a CFC or something. This wouldn't even be in our court if they had gotten a CFC back when they did the project. But I would think this is the timing's right, where they could go ahead and get the majority of this done fairly quickly. And then the question is, can we give them a certificate of compliance? If typically we'd want to see some sort of growing season. So if this was planted out and Brad Holmes came out and said, yep, this is all planted according to my plan, and they submit that to us, at that point, can we issue a certificate of compliance if they were to give us some surety that the plants would grow? And I think that's the real question here. If I'm aside from this, everybody comfortable with this planting plan? It sort of runs. You know, we have our rules and regulations on what we'd like to see filed or followed, and then you have other groups, either, you know, when people go to close or do something else, what we have doesn't exactly comply with what they're looking for. So I guess if the prices were to construct this and get it done fairly quickly, then there'd be some sort of time lapse before we knew that this was established. And are we good with giving them a certificate of compliance if we have some surety for that? And just wonder if anybody has any comments on that.
How do we get the surety, Frank? Would it be a financial, or just, I mean, wonder if they sell it and somebody else comes in and kills all the plants and we gave a CSC?
Well, I think that could happen anyways,
Yeah,
Penny. If you,
right.
if
No, it could. So
when you're almost getting a bigger bite of the apple right now than.
I mean, I have no problem with this planting plan and giving them a CSC.
What if they were? I'm a little out of turn here, but what if this planting plan was done and then a few conservation posts were placed along the edge of the driveway? Anybody else want to comment?
Did we get a copy of this planting plan in our email?
No.
I'm trying to find a.
I haven't
No.
found it. No.
No, okay. So I'll
Yeah, I
stop
don't-
looking for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure the new planting plan was sent out, but I mean, without both of them, I think that's one of the big questions is how are they different? You know what I mean? Because the project wasn't necessarily built in accordance with the design. There was a little bit of variation, but I mean, based on just my interpretation, it looks like they're giving us a few more plants, you know what I mean? But there's still certainly encroachments in the 50. And then just as a point, I mean, it's a kind of a slippery slope as far as C of Cs go. I mean, once you have a C of C, the drawer is closed and, you know, you're filed away. So for jobs that are still have continuing things that we're watching, you know what I mean? With surety, without surety, whatever, if we're going to do anything, it would be a partial C of C, or they just remain open with open orders until the time has gone by.
Well, I agree with you, Amy, except that it wouldn't be totally put away because we'd be hanging on to some money. And sooner or later, somebody's going to want their money back.
Yeah, but there's not any way to track it though, Frank. Once it's closed, it's going to be in an, you know what I mean? So it's the matter's closed. So a partial C of C would certainly, I think, be the way to go.
I understand that, except if it doesn't satisfy, I know these are just getting more complicated for people, especially with financing stuff and banks and attorneys. It just creates this quandary for folks, and if they're willing to work with the commission to get it done. I appreciate both sides of it. I do. And I'm just, my question is, can we give a certificate of compliance and still hold a some sort of surety? And I'm sure that creates complications in town hall. Anybody? I guess my proposal here would be to tell them whether or not we agree with this replication. They want to move forward, and we'll try to figure out something that suits them, and at the same time works with town hall. I mean, we want this replication done. We'll see that we don't.
Yeah.
That's not the part of it. And then what we've got to work out is whether they can get far enough down the road with what their needs are.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Frank, what's the time frame that they're looking to do this?
I think over the next couple months. We have, I think we have Dr. Price on.
Denise has her hand raised, or Dr. Price does, one or the other. Let them in.
Am I muted? I'm
No.
unmuted?
I think you're unmuted.
Okay. Thank you for the, Mr. Chairman and the commission. And, you know, I want to accept all responsibility, even though my son, you know, is the, we jointly own this property. The house that was built 10, 11 years ago was the first detached approved detached accessory dwelling in the town. And, you know, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's a bit removed from my property or from my house. And, you know, the mitigation plan should have been done, and I accept that responsibility. The reason for bringing up the issue now is that we're not looking to move. We're looking just to refinance from about a 5.75 mortgage rate to approximately a 3% mortgage rate, which would be a big help for my son, who's, you know, still growing his business. And, you know, we certainly are more than willing to do the necessary work. And I've talked to Brad Holmes about this, and it is a slight increase in the plantings in the area that was originally delegated or required to be done. And I'm willing to do that. I'm happy to do it. You know, again, a surety is not a problem. We'd be happy to, you know, provide a surety to the town. The reason that a partial
I'm doing good.
compliance will not work, is that banks will not accept a partial compliance and issue a mortgage on that basis. So the complete compliance is what we would need to move forward with a refinancing of the property. And we are looking to get this accomplished hopefully by the end of May, so we can move forward with a bank if you all feel that that is within our purview.
Yeah, in my professional experience, there are banks that lend with partials. I've seen it many times. Just I'm not sure who you're talking about, but I have seen it for sure, because we deal with this from time to time.
We're all just sitting here. Why don't we
Well,
take a, I mean, I'm fine with giving them a CSC and having them put some money down to make sure that everything grows in the next 2 years, and then give the money back to them.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going nowhere.
Yeah, I think if the applicant is acceptable to that, then
He's
seems
not going to
like
run out on us.
and that seems like
Well, you're going to need some kind of an agreement. I mean, if you want to, and this just opens up a huge can of worms, just so you know. But there's got to be some kind of an agreement. is all I
isn't there
can say.
usually with surety some sort of
And
stipulation
it's
on
called
that?
the partial CFC. Yeah.
Oh, so we're
and it's
talking
a-
about the same
And
thing?
so we
then?
record something that, you know what I mean? So it's official. We can't just take money and put it in an account. There's like an exchange of papers that, you can do it,
Yeah.
but it's just, we need to document it so that people, it just becomes confusing.
That's the concern with the partial, Mr. Price, that you're not going to be able to get your loan?
Yeah, I've talked to 3 different banks and none of them will accept a partial. They say the title company will not issue the insurer, I guess the insurer will not issue insurance on a title that has a lien on it, and a partial is not acceptable to the bank to move forward. So we're kind of stuck.
Yeah. I guess we do have a few other things to do tonight. So my suggestion would be that if the rest of the commission members feel that this replication is acceptable, and I'd like to see a few demarcation posts put in here as well.
Yeah.
And let them move forward with their replication. And then let's try to see if we can come up with something. I understand Amy's dilemma a little bit with the partial. At the same time, would like to work with the prices on this. I am a little bit puzzled with not accepting a partial, only because we have a lot of new houses that people are trying to pass on, and we do wind up giving a letter and a partial, and people seem to be able to do that and then close on their property. And I'm assuming most of them are buying them with a mortgage. So I'm not entirely.
Well, yeah,
but
if we have, obviously we would have some time, Frank, and I'd be willing to accept any suggestions on other banks that you guys might be aware of. But
we're going to suggest trees and bushes. I don't know if we want to suggest a bank, but I appreciate both your dilemma, and I just can't believe we can't figure something out along that way.
Yeah,
So I think the hurdle for us at the moment would be move forward with your plantings and some demarcation if the rest of the commission feels they're okay with that, and then let's see if between us we can't figure out a way to get you from A to B. But I'd like to see the plantings get installed and I think everybody here would feel more comfortable about the certificate. So is that good enough for this evening?
I don't know when you're looking to hear people who might have reservations,
Okay,
but I'm
right now.
I really want to say I'm okay with that because I very much understand the dilemma that the prices are facing, but from the perspective of setting precedents for all the other times we say no to this, I can't say yes.
Well, we'll at least go forward with the planting plan, and then in the meantime, let's hope that Dr. Price can find a bank that will take a partial CSC. And then
I'm happy to do a partial, but I don't support doing a full.
No, I understand what you're saying. So at least we'll go forward with the planting plan. He can get that started, and hopefully he can find somebody that will take the partial. So we stay within the confines of how we usually do it.
Well,
I guess I misunderstood something then.
Okay, I guess I'm thinking a little bit different, but anybody else? I'd rather hear from commission members. Richard?
Rich, you're muted.
Details. What I was going to say is I really do agree with Penny. And I even would have a bank that privately I would suggest to Dr. Price, if he hasn't checked, that maybe would be helpful with a partial. I cannot support a full approval of a CFC right now, but I do want to see the planning plan, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Doug, did you weigh in?
Yeah, I think I'm talking about the same thing. I guess that's the instrument to use as a partial COC, so he can move on. I have the same sympathy here for his dilemma, though, if you can't get the loan. But I understand the need for some sort of assurance that everything's going to be complete. But so whatever we can do to move the ball forward, I don't want to end in limbo. That's what I'm struggling with here.
Okay.
So is there some part of this we can approve?
I think so.
Planting plan.
There's two things. I'm going to go to the last couple of members, and Paul Marabito is somehow frantically raising his hand somewhere. Andy?
No, I think I'm in line with those last two comments. Nothing to add on those.
Brendan?
Yeah, I'm kind of in line. I haven't seen the planting plan, but I'm sure it's great. And
I sent it off to you guys while we were chatting.
Oh, okay. So I'll check it. And otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of in line with everybody. Hopefully move this forward.
All right.
It didn't come through with an attachment, so the.
Oh, sorry. Well, there you go. Well, then I didn't do it. We'll leave it to the pros. Sorry. Sent you a nice email. Is Paul Marabito out there somewhere?
Why do we need Paul at this point, Frank?
Paul was the engineer for this project. So I just, if he wants to weigh in, I'm happy to hear it.
He hasn't raised his hand.
Yeah, he's right.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
You hear me, Frank?
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion? I think there's a fairly simple solution to this that protects the commission and the homeowner to get his request. Let me make a suggestion. The commission votes to issue a full certificate of compliance so he can get his refinance loan from the bank. And in the interim, two things would happen. He would, actually three things. He would post a bond. He would put the plants in, say by, set a date, May 1st. The reason I say that is so hopefully the landscape yards have the plants in by then, and his son could install them. You would also post a bond accordingly. The other thing that the commission has in their arsenal, for lack of a better word, is an enforcement order. Even if you issue the certificate of compliance with a bond, if the work isn't done or if there's some alteration to the resource area, which so far there has been clearly none, they could always issue an enforcement order to either clean up the work they haven't done or make sure that the work is being done. But in the interim, that would allow him to proceed to get a full certificate of compliance. I can understand and appreciate where the homeowner's coming from and dealing with a bank that only wants a full certificate of compliance. But again, if you issue the full certificate with a bond and the plants are put in by a specific date and you put in those posts, if something doesn't work out for some reason, you always have the ability under the enforcement orders to take further action, which would also stick with the property.
I appreciate what you're saying, Paul. I just don't want to wind up adding another layer that we've got to do every time we have this issue. We sort of have been able to keep this under control by issuing a partial and getting people to be able to close. And I just I guess first off, I know some of you haven't seen the plan. I'm good with it. Amy's good with it, but in fairness, does anybody have a question about that?
No.
Anybody
We
else?
asked them to demonstrate how the plans were different, and this afternoon we did get a plan dropped off that highlighted certain things, but we can try to distribute that information so you can see how they differ from what was originally accepted and how the project is different. But I mean, overall, like I commented before, it seems like they're giving us, like, the number of plants has gone up, you know what I mean? But there's still some pretty good encroachments into the do not disturb buffer. So why don't we get those plans around and we can just talk about it at the next meeting and confirm that you like it, but I'd say you're gonna probably like it and that the prices should line themselves up to getting ready to do the work as soon as they can. But it's not planting season yet. So we're not slowing anything down right now because you can't even plant,
Okay.
right?
All right. I think that's a good suggestion. Okay. We'll table this one. We'll get that information out and we'll move forward. Okay. Enforcement for Bossy Lane.
Right, so this one, I mean, you guys got the emails on this. So basically it's similar to Oceanside, where just work started before a valid permit was issued and recorded. I guess there, you know, you saw the emails. There was some confusion on their part, and but they did go ahead and clear the lot and do some pretty significant work between February 25th and March 3rd. So, I mean, given the fact that you were getting ready to actually issue the orders, I mean, you had voted to issue the orders, they just hadn't gone out yet. So nor they weren't recorded or any of the stuff, the meat of the orders were not done. I mean, it probably just, you know, maybe discuss whether or not you want to penalize or, you know, I've got an enforcement order for you to ratify. Language in that, just, you know, starting work without valid orders, and it would back up to a violation notice, potentially with penalties. Penalties for this type of thing, $300 a day per offense. I mean, so for instance, Mr. Boyajian, who was in the same type of scenario, you guys penalized him $2,400. I don't know. I was calculating somewhere in the range of $1,200 to $2,400 for 4 days of offenses, meaning that they worked on February 25th, installing 365 feet of erosion control, and then tree work between 3/1 and 3/3. And this is from the FARs. They've been asked to cease and desist until we get this matter cleared up. So, I mean, it's pretty serious to go out there and start work without a valid permit. Certainly, you know, I think the engineer, I'm sure that they go through this with their clients, but I think that, like Frank said, we do a pretty good job explaining the process. You know, there's a public hearing, notice of intent, you close, then you either vote to issue or deny, and it's disclosed, you know, clearly on our website that, you know, can be 2 to 3 months to get through the process by the time paperwork is issued and gets out of the office. But, you know, orders are recorded on your deed. There's pre-construction meetings. There's a host of requirements before you're supposed to touch the ground, which are very clear. It's part of the notice of intent. So, thoughts from the members?
Richard?
Richard ran away. He's smart.
He's there.
I think he's thinking.
Oh.
Rich, do you have anything to say?
Okay, I'm going to jump to the next one. Doug, are you going to comment on this one?
Yeah. Oh, there's Richard.
Yeah, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Can you believe it? What I said, I'm sorry, Doug, let me just say, what I said was I think we need to fine them, maybe a little less than Boyajian, where they quit when they were told to and they haven't gone back. But I think they have to be fined. We can't be making exceptions on this, or we'll never get anybody to do what they're supposed to do.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
Well, I was not headed down that road. I was rereading the email that was sent from Emily and Patrick. I assume that's the FARs, and taking people on their at face value that they're very apologetic and honestly misunderstood something going on there, which happens from time to time, and stopped immediately. So I'm feeling very I'm feeling a little bit more sympathetic tonight, I guess, than that. So I don't put them in the same thing as other applicants that have been just very flagrant and in your face about it. I'm not getting the impression that they are disregarding the importance of protecting the wetlands. So that's where I stand on it.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Penny?
No, I'm with Richard. I don't know how anybody can start a project without having your orders in hand and reading them. And if you read your orders, it's very clear the steps that had to be taken. And they didn't have their orders. They didn't have them in hand. And they were not recorded. To me, that's an absolute no-no. You do nothing until they're recorded. So, no, this is such a, this site, I'm not happy with the site. I mean, it's such a, I'm very upset this happened. That's all I can say. It shouldn't have happened. There's a concern of that clay pipe. Yeah, no. Somebody should have been out there.
Jen?
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add. I support Penny and Rich.
Andy?
Yeah, no comment that I think a fine is appropriate in my eyes.
Brendan?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the consensus. I don't think that they were intentionally necessarily like flagrantly doing this, but you really should have, particularly if you're expecting them within 21 days as they stated, you really can't start unless you actually have them. So I think there should be some sort of a fine.
Okay. Do we have anybody else on for this? Has everybody had a chance to weigh in?
Just you, Frank.
Okay. Well, I am frustrated that this happened. I realize that I read their letters. I've had the discussion with Amy, talked to a couple of different members. There's a waiver that's signed. We know that the commission's busy and all boards, and we request that additional time be given, and we were granted that by the applicant. And I think the commission worked hard to try to work with them on this project. It was a difficult site, and I think that we spent some time on this one trying to come up with something reasonable for a sensitive site, which we did. And then we closed it, and then it takes some time to get those orders out. And not only are they supposed to be recorded, but there's supposed to be a pre-construction before anything starts. And I think that the contractor that worked there knows that, the engineer knows it. So to have those things overlooked, as it sort of flies in the face of what we're trying to do here. I do appreciate that they responded quickly, and they'd like to get this resolved and worked out with that. But by the same token, if you start a project without a building permit or without a in order, then you kind of face the consequences to some degree. So I'm in favor of some sort of
fine.
Yep.
So Amy, what do you have for some recommendations?
Well, I recommend that you vote to ratify the enforcement order that I've written, which just basically is a cease and desist until they pay, basically until they pay the penalty, and we're going to issue, or if you want to, vote to issue a penalty along with the enforcement order. And then, I mean, that goes with a cover letter, and then they can just basically pay it. And the orders, I mean, I would say that, you know, we should hold those until that process is done. And then, you know, they should get their orders and wait the 10-day appeal and get going, you know. So I don't think we want to hold them up tremendously at all. You know, we think we just want to put this behind us and them, and everybody move forward. I mean, they certainly were apologetic, you know, that was clear.
Words are cheap.
So, yeah, I mean, I looked at it a couple different ways, and I mean, I came up with a number of 2,400, but I mean, this is a first time offense. So, you know, I think maybe 1,200 might be good, or maybe you think.
I would make a motion to just what Amy said.
Yeah.
$1,200 and get
Well,
it.
we make a motion to ratify the enforcement order
Right.
with a fine of $1,200 attached.
You do it better than I do. That's good.
So that's a motion from Penny.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
That's Richard. All in favor? Doug?
No.
Well, I would vote to ratify the, can I vote to ratify the order and not the fine? No, I can't do that.
No, you can't.
Well, that's not what's on the table, but yeah.
Okay.
We get you what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I know this way this goes anyway, so I'll just say no.
Okay. Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
yeah, and Frank, yes. Okay. All right.
Right.
The land donation, Zero Glades Road.
Where are we?
Yeah, so that, I mean, just kind of an update. I think you guys have been following along with that too. That it's the owner's last name is McGovern, so I'm going to start calling it maybe McGovern property on Zero Rear Glades. But so we did walk it. A few members of the commission did walk it. It's a lovely property. Everybody agreed, but it would be more desirable without the structures that are on the property. So McGovern's actually, I think that they've submitted an RDA for the next meeting to dismantle those wooden shacks and get them off there. And then, you know, and then you guys can consider maybe taking, it's a straight up donation.
Yep.
So can we want to take a motion? I'm assuming that we need to go to the selectmen to get that approved. Can we just get a motion to do that tonight so that we can approach the selectmen?
I make a motion to accept the McGovern land donation.
Amy, that was a question first. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, it's maybe a slightly premature because
Got to get
I
rid of
mean,
the buildings.
because yeah, the building's got to go.
But we got to we got to get on their docket, and I think that you know the McGoverns are moving forward with this with the assumption that we're going to do this.
Mhm.
So to me, it would make sense that we also reach out and just make sure we've got support for that.
Right, which I mean, I've spoken with the town administrator, and he did say that, you know, if you guys want it and you're not like just wanting it because you're trying to stop development or whatever, you know, it meets the requirements that we have for land donations, which I think it is consistent. I mean, it does attach to other town property. There's clearly value in preserving the property. You know, you've got possible plans for additional access to Cohasset Harbor and clamming. And I mean, so there's definitely, you know, justifiable reasons why you want to accept this donation. And in return, McGoverns are asking potentially for a plaque in honor or memory of their dad, who actually I looked up and sounds like he was a pretty special physician, very giving of nature. And they said that, you know, this donation would fit what he would want to see for the town of Scituate. So that was pretty nice. And they're willing to take the buildings off. So, I mean, I guess you can vote it now, but what do you think? I mean, I don't know.
If we voted it now, and we try to get on the agenda for the town meeting, and they don't take down the buildings, then we can withdraw the request to be on the meeting.
Well, it doesn't have to go to town meeting. We just need to support it, and then I write up a motion, and then for the selectmen, and then we go on. Okay. You know, it goes on selectmen, and then the selectmen just vote to accept it too.
I say the same thing, that we could always take it back if we had to.
Yep. I'd take a motion that we support acquiring this piece of property with the buildings being removed.
So moved.
So I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Doug did great. Thank you. All in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think
Okay.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is a good one. See, it was worth staying on tonight.
Hey, we had a unanimous vote tonight.
I know. And a split vote. Wow. Do we want to discuss Appleton or Andy, or do we want to wait till after we?
Yeah, I don't think there's too much for this group. I'm working on some details at the selectmen's request, but we're moving ahead.
Okay. And
Your forestry management, Frank?
we've got an agreement with Bill Benjamin, a forester, and this is something that was funded in large part by DCR, and then the rest of it will be with us, and they've started the process. So there's really not much else to tell you at this point, other than
Good report.
the ball's been kicked.
Moving forward.
Yep.
Well, I did see, Frank, that the plan does not include town forest.
Right. On this one. But I think there's another provision for doing stuff in the town forest, and I just haven't had time to dig into it.
Could
Hey,
I
you wanna-
ask which town forest? On 3A or up,
I think we need to look at both of them, Penny.
oh, okay, well but when you say the town forest, I'm not sure which one you're talking about at the moment.
I'm hoping when they do the forestry plan, at least we'll have a minute to pick the forester's brain about this. But I think if
Okay.
we look into it, maybe you've got a little extra spare time. There's provisions for working in the town forest that are different than our conservation land, and
Yeah.
and there may already be a provision that we can do something there.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good.
Thank you. Approving the minutes.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes, approve the minutes as written for February 8th, 2021.
It's a motion, a second. That was Doug.
Yeah.
All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. What else have we got? Any correspondence?
Yeah,
You have
that was good.
Pretty long list of correspondence. I mean, oh, I know. I'll just say this because it was one of the last emails that I got tonight was an inquiry about when we're planting the beach grass at Museum Beach. So,
When it stops snowing.
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to put that back on my list of like sourcing beach grass. And then I think we need to come up with some volunteers and money.
All right, I'll accept that as the correspondence. Anything else this evening?
Nope.
Yeah, there's one more thing.
What's
Somebody.
What?
Make a motion, we close?
Yeah, there we go.
That was it.
I think I just heard Jen make a motion.
Yay, Jen.
We'll second it.
Penny's got a second.
Yeah.
All in favor? Richard?
If you insist. Okay.
Doug?
Yes, please.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thanks so much. Have a good night.